Hello, Bookie Crushers! Today I would like to share 6 MLB picks for you, including a couple of plays that are rated 5 stars out of 5. And also, and this is very important, towards the end of this video I will discuss the famous Lobster bets. If you want to receive in your mailbox the daily Lobster bet during the month of June, this is your opportunity. By the way, we won again the Lobster bet yesterday, which was the Knicks minus 1.5 points at halftime. And I believe they led by an 11-point margin at halftime. So this means we won another Lobster bet. For those of you who are not familiar with the concept, this is basically the best wager across all sports. And yesterday's win raised our record to 28-9. Alright, now let's get started with today's 6 MLB plays. And I'll get the party started by taking the Toronto Blue Jays to win straight up against the Ace. This pick is rated only 2 stars out of 5. So let me give you a few more explanations about this play right now. Well, yesterday Toronto annihilated the Ace by a score of 12-0. So this means the Jays fit under a betting system called the blowout number 1. Let's review its rules together. Bet a team that won its previous game by a margin of 8 runs or more if they are facing the same opponent. And clearly, Toronto fits under these rules. Now, the MLB Nomads, the Ace, gave their fans something to cheer about after starting the season with a 20-16 record. However, since defeating the Dodgers 11-1 on May 13th, they have gone 1-14 since then. Ouch, that hurts. And now they are facing Chris Bassitt, who can be great at times, but I have to admit that he's been a little inconsistent. I also recommend being cautious because Jeffrey Springs has done good things this year, and also Toronto's offense cannot be trusted. So that explains the 1-star grade for this MLB prediction. But still, I feel like this is worth betting. Again, remember that all picks shared on this YouTube channel are worth betting in my opinion. So if a pick gets a 1-star rating, it doesn't mean it's a crappy pick. It means it's borderline acceptable. I'm just taking a smaller stab on it. Alright, my second pick goes to the Colorado Rockies with the plus 2.5 run line. This play is rated 3 stars, which means it is viewed as being a good bet. Now, of course, this is a bit of a scary bet because Kyle Freeland gets the nod for Colorado. And among all qualified starters, he owns the highest ERA and the highest WHIP statistic. Now he's facing David Peterson, who is coming off 2 solid performances against tough lineups, the Yankees and the Dodgers. However, you know what? I feel like he could let his guard down, so I suspect he could have a letdown game because facing the Rockies is not nearly as exciting as facing the Dodgers or the Yankees. Also, Peterson's 2.79 ERA makes him look great, but a 1.28 WHIP stat is right on the league average, so some regression is coming up for him in my humble opinion. Again, this is a scary bet given the awful 3-25 road record by the Rockies in 2025. But if there is light at the end of the tunnel, it's the fact that in 6 career appearances against the Mets, Freeland owns a good 3.03 ERA. And also, I feel like we are getting some pretty good odds given the plus 2.5 run line, which means that we're going to win our wager if Colorado either wins the game or loses by a margin of 1 or 2 runs. Alright, now let's move on to my third pick. And by the way, for only the 6th time this season, we have a team that qualifies under the Hot Teams Matchup number 2 betting angle. The rules are as follows. Bet the home team if the road team has won at least 4 games in a row, and if the home club has won either 1 or 2 consecutive games. Now, if you focus on the Detroit versus Kansas City matchup, the Tigers are the visiting club and they are currently riding a 4-game winning streak. And meanwhile, KC has won 1 game in a row. In fact, they avoided being swept by the Reds yesterday in a tight 3-2 victory. So by following those rules, we must back the home club, and that explains pick number 3. I'm taking the Royals to win straight up against Detroit. By the way, I just said that the KC Royals beat the Reds yesterday. I'm not sure if it was yesterday or the day before. But anyway, what matters is the fact that KC has won 1 game in a row. Now, so Seth Lugo is taking the mound for the Royals. He's coming off the 15-day injury list as he recovered from a finger injury. Now, let's hope that he is fully fit for this contest because the Royals need him at his best given their fairly weak offense. And the Tigers are starting Casey Mize, who's been superb this year. He owns a 2.45 ERA, coupled with a stellar 1.01 whip stat. In fact, Mize has given up exactly 1 earned run in 4 of his past 5 outings. So he's a very tough customer. Now I've noticed that Detroit's offense has slowed down recently, but still I would remain cautious with this pick. And that is reflected by the fact that I have awarded a 1-star grade to this pick. So again, it means I think it's worth betting, but it's borderline acceptable. Its return on investment is fairly small. In my opinion, it's around plus 1%. All right, pick number 4 is rated 5 stars. I'm taking a player prop bet. More precisely, I'm taking Tampa's starter Ryan Pepiot to record under 4.5 strikeouts. So that means I expect him to accumulate a maximum of 4 punch-outs in this match. You can see a screenshot of the sportsbook offering the best current line, minus 138 with William Hill. We also have minus 143 with Bet Victor, minus 145 with Hard Rock, minus 148 with Bet Rivers, and so on. So here are some arguments supporting this pick. Well, this bet owns a 5-6 record this season. However, Pepiot has been striking out batters at a lower rate recently. If you focus on his last 6 appearances on the mound, this bet has presented a 4-2 record. Also, his strikeout rate has been lower on the road than at home, and he is facing a squad that has won 10 of its past 16 games overall. Also, the Astros have been a completely different ball club, whether they've been away from home or at home. Their record in front of their home fans has been 20-11 versus 10-15 on the road. By the way, Pepiot lasted 7 innings on the mound in his last appearance, and I expect a much shorter outing today. Here is the icing on the cake. The Astros have struck out the 5th fewest times in the majors in the 2025 campaign. So it's going to be difficult for Pepiot to amass a minimum of 5 strikeouts. So I love this pick. I'm taking Pepiot under 4.5 strikeouts. All right, now we have 2 more plays coming up, including another 5-star pick. But that's not the one that's coming, but it still receives a 4-star grade. I'm betting the Seattle Mariners to win outright against the Twins. The current odds are around minus 145, which is the same as 1.69 in decimal format. I feel like this is a very reasonable line given the following arguments. Well, Seattle's lead atop the AL West division is shrinking. They now hold only half a game in front of Houston, So they must wake up after dropping 5 of their last 7 matches. And that included a couple of home losses to the Nationals, a very ordinary ball club. Now I do believe that they will bounce back in this spot. The Twins have been very disappointing on the road, as evidenced by their 12-17 road record, and we have a very favorable pitching matchup. Zeby Matthews has the ability to miss bats, there is no doubt about it. However, he's been squandering way too many runs. In close to 45 career innings pitched, his ERA sits at a very high 6.85. Man, come on! And meanwhile, Seattle is starting Bryan Woo, who is a force. He has delivered a quality start in 8 of his 10 outings this season. And also, it is stunning that he has issued only 8 walks in 63 2/3 innings. Wow! So he does not give up many free passes. You need to work hard to score runs against Bryan Woo. So I feel like even though the line is a bit smaller, I still believe there is value here, and that's why it receives a 4-star grade. Alright, so now we are left with another 5-star pick. So let me reveal what it is right now, and it concerns the Yankees versus Dodgers showdown. So the Big Show returns to LA as the 2 biggest and wealthiest ball clubs begin a 3-game series at Dodger Stadium. We have a World Series rematch and perhaps an appetizer for this year's World Series, who knows. Now, one of these 2 teams qualifies under the very lucrative Big Upset number 2 betting strategy. By the way, this system owns a perfect 8-0 record in the 2025 campaign. So let's review the rules, and that will help us to figure out which team we need to bet in this case. So the Big Upset number 2 says, bet against any team that meets the following 3 criteria. Number 1, they lost their past game to a team whose money line was greater than plus 150. So in other words, we're going to fade a team that was the victim of a big upset in its last match. Number 2, they must now be facing a different opponent. And number 3, they must be an underdog today. Alright, so let's focus on the Dodgers for a minute. In their last game on Wednesday, they lost 7-4 against the Guardians. And the closing line on Cleveland with Pinnacle was plus 156. So that qualifies as being a big upset. The Dodgers were the victim of that big upset. Now they are facing a different rival, and they are underdogs today. So by following the betting system I just presented to you, we need to support their opponents, the New York Yankees, to win straight up on the road. Alright, so obviously we also have the revenge factor going into full effect since the Yankees want to avenge the World Series loss. And we also have a very favorable pitching matchup, of course. So Max Fried has been awesome throughout his entire career, and he's been even more dominant this season, as shown by his tiny 1.29 ERA. Can you believe that? And meanwhile, Tony Gonsolin is just another guy who is struggling in his return from Tommy John surgery. So in 5 appearances this season, he has posted a pretty disappointing 4.68 ERA, along with a whip stat that sits at 1.44. And remember that the league average is around 1.30, so there has been a lot more traffic on the bases on the mound when Gonsolin has been pitching than an average pitcher. So basically, I have to side with the Yankees in this matchup. So this is my 6th pick, and it receives a 5-star grade. I think there are many arguments supporting this pick. So I'm not just basing my picks following my betting systems. I need more arguments before pulling the trigger. All right, now, of course, we need to talk about the famous lobster bets. Oh, sorry, I won't share my screen. All right, so again, for those of you who have never seen this Excel spreadsheet, this is where I track all of my lobster bets, which represent the best wager across all sports. So in this column, I enter the value 1 if it was a winner, 0 if it lost. So as you can see, we started off by winning the first 8. Then we had a short losing skid. Then we caught fire again with a lot of victories here. Then recently we dropped 4 in a row, and now we are catching fire once again. I am hoping that we can make it again 10 wins in a row. Yesterday we took the New York Knicks minus 1.5 points after the first half against the Pacers, and since they held an 11-point lead at halftime, we won this bet fairly easily. So overall, as you can see, we have picked up a 28-9 record. And now if you want to receive these very high confidence betting tips in your mailbox every single day during the month of June, well, you need to follow the link that's below in the comment section, and I will also post it in the video's description. I already shared a link to people who are signed up to my daily newsletter, and a lot of people, more than 50 people, have already registered. So if you want to get the best bang for your buck, you need to sign up now, because the month of June starts tomorrow, and I'm not going to post a video on weekends as usual. So I'm Professor MJ, holder of a PhD in statistics, and I was also a former 15-year university statistics teacher at Laval University in Quebec City in Canada, before quitting my full-time job to become a full-time sports bettor after amassing more than $1 million with my sports bets. So it's been a pleasure talking to you. I wish you a great weekend, and I hope that we're going to destroy the bookies together during the month of June with our daily lobster bets.